Let's talk about the guy in Texas that was convicted for having guns and weed and now is off scot-free. Happy New Year's Eve, Wolverines. Today we're going to be talking about a case out of Texas called the United States versus Gill. Adrian Gill was a gentleman who had guns and he was also a daily user of marijuana. Yes, the devil's lettuce. Cops were called to his house over a fight, and when they searched the house, they found bags of weed and guns. He admitted to the police that he was a user of marijuana, stating that he was smoking up every day since he was 14 because he just likes good weed. He was arrested and the ATF was called and they confirmed that he violated the federal code against being an unlawful user of drugs and owning firearms. Just to be clear, if you have a medical marijuana card, you are not allowed to have firearms according to federal law. Now, when he went to court, he pleaded guilty to having guns and weed, and he was convicted. Because of the Bruen decision, the defendant appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which reviewed the case and ruled that there is no history, text, and tradition that says you cannot be a user of marijuana and own a firearms. Remember, Bruen said that the Second Amendment relies on three things: history, text, and tradition. Text is the first thing. If the conduct is protected by the plain text of the Second Amendment, then it moves to the second step, and that's where the burden shifts to the government. The government must provide historical context to show that a firearms regulation is consistent with the history and tradition of firearms regulations in the United States. The federal government could not do that on the circuit level. The circuit court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, to be specific, remanded the case back down to the district level, basically stating that the criminal court's decision that he was guilty had to be thrown out, and basically it's like a do-over. The trial had to be a do-over. Now, the courts had a little decision to make. The defendant wanted to withdraw his guilty plea and asked for the case to be dismissed. Now, if you want to withdraw a guilty plea, it's not a definite. The courts look at several different factors, whether there's harm to the government, whether you knew that your rights were what they were when you pleaded guilty, and several other things. There is also another thing: if a conduct was illegal when you did it, but then due to a change in the law, it becomes legal, you can withdraw your guilty plea. That is kind of where this case falls in on. Although a law did not change, the Bruen decision did change the jurisprudence of the Second Amendment and the Second Amendment defense. The judge would rule that the defendant could withdraw his guilty plea, even though the federal government did not want that to happen. They argued that the guilty pleas should stick. Not only did the guilty plea get removed, but the judge also dismissed the case in light of Bruen. Not only that, but he dismissed it with prejudice. See, if a judge dismisses a case, it could be dismissed with or without prejudice. Basically, if it's dismissed without prejudice, it means that the indictment can be refiled and he can be charged again. But since this judge determined that it was right to dismiss this case with prejudice, it means he cannot be charged with the same crime, which means he is a free man and there is no chance of him being prosecuted for the same thing, and he will walk free. This is another defeat for the ATF on the eve of the new year, and another defeat at the feet of Steve Dettelbach, who has now resigned. This is a victory. I don't do drugs, I don't do weed, I don't do anything like that, but I don't think that there's a historical record of that being prohibited while owning a firearm. So Adrian Gill is going to walk free and all the charges are dismissed. His conviction has been thrown out. There is no conviction and he is free to continue doing what he is doing with a clean record. All right, guys, that's it. Just wanted to bring you that. My name is John Crump. I'm an investigative journalist, and this is my channel, John Crump News. If you like what I do here, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And remember, stay ever vigilant, stay ever free, keeping the fight. Happy New Year to everyone out there. And with that, we're out of here. Wolverines, MFers.